Horoscopes. I'm Maddie.
And I'm Tiarni, and welcome to Suddha Sanctuary.
So, our podcast is about sharing experiences, knowledge, and wisdom around health and wellness, and they're from people we love and are inspired by, as well as our own. And this is a beautiful, sacred space for you to listen, learn, and create your own path in life.
Yes, and we are forever grateful that you joined and shared this journey with us. If you would like to stay notified about when we post, please subscribe to our channel and like or comment if you feel inclined. This helps us out a lot. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's begin. Hey guys, we hope you're having a lovely day. It is so hot, well, here in Queensland it is 31 degrees currently, but Maddie and I just wanted to do a Q&A today just for fun and just have like a really chilled out episode for this week.
Yeah, so hey guys, and it's kind of the opposite here in Melbourne. When you said 31, I was like, oh my gosh, it is like 9 degrees and raining.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my god, I can only dream of that. But yeah, no, it's gonna be a pretty chill episode. I feel like we're gonna have a few people interviewed in our next like up and coming videos. But for now, yeah, we're just gonna have a nice chat. So we got some of our questions. We now have an Instagram, which is cool as well. We're at Suddha Sanctuary. So we got our questions off Facebook in the Yom chat, as well as going through there. We had a look at some of like Raquel posted that she wanted to do a Q&A, so we got some questions from there. But yeah, I feel like that's pretty much like where we got all of them from.
Yeah, so we're so excited to answer them for you, and we hope that our answers resonate with you and help you along your journey. So, just to jump straight into it, the first question is, what is love? So, Maddie, what does love mean to you?
Yeah, it's a crazy thing. When I heard that, I was like, wow. Like, I feel like there should be one answer, but I feel like there's not. Like,
Yeah.
so it's so different for everyone. But I'm going to go with like the first thing that comes in my head. So I'm just going to like say, like, what is love? I feel like the first thing that comes to my mind is just like a hug in my head. But like, I feel like it's kind of like a sense, like what it feels like to me is just kind of like ease. Like it's kind of something like it's just this like a state, or I guess like when you just feel kind of not like good or bad, like it's just kind of like nice. But I feel like love is kind of in everything. Like it's just kind of like the underlying state of what it is, and then from that is where you have, you know, like the duality of both aspects. But I don't know, I feel like it's kind of a solid, kind of the center of what everything comes off of. I don't know, like when I think of love, it's just kind of like a circle in the middle, and then everything else comes off of that. I don't know if that makes sense. But
Yeah, and it's kind of like just allowing for everything to be as it is, and you know, make it flow. Well, not really make it flow because that sounds like you're forcing it, but have it to flow. And yeah, I know what you're saying.
yeah, no, I'm listening back. I'm like thinking now. I'm like, oh, that was a really weird way of putting it. But like, I don't know, it's random. Like, I feel like there's no full way of describing it. I almost feel like it is just something you feel. And it's not necessarily something that's like romantic, like, you know, how Hollywood and stuff, like it's all associated with like, you know, like a rom-com and like all that sort of stuff. It's like that is an aspect of it as well. But I don't know. I feel like it's something that, yeah, just kind of resonates with different aspects depending on the person. But I don't know, like when you look at a tree, or I don't know, it just kind of, yeah, it's nice. It just kind of is like love. But
Yeah.
what about you?
Well, for love, I like you said as well, like the first thing that popped into my mind is I actually read this book called, I think it's called The Three Questions. I'm pretty sure that's what it's called. And it's by the author of The Four Agreements. And the three questions are, who am I? What is real and what is love? And this just resonated with me so much. So the way he describes love is like without condition. And I feel like when like love, like it's just, I feel like it's just everything. Like it's a bit of good, it's a bit of bad, but it's just like sort of like an underlying feeling of like pureness, sort of, I guess you can say, and it's within everything. And one thing that stuck with me from that book is, so like you hear so many people say to you, I love you unconditionally and things like that. And yeah, like we say that, but what does that actually mean? And then the author was talking about saying it instead of like unconditionally, saying like I love you without condition. And for me, that really like made me question like what what things do we put conditions on in order to love? Like, for example, I will only love you if, or if you
Mm.
like provide for me, if you cook for me, if you feed me, or I will love you if you do this for me. Like just things like that. It really makes you think about like it's like rules that we put on love that we shouldn't be. And I feel like love is so much more than that, that it is unconditional and that we should be loving without condition. But it's sort of like this, I don't even know how to explain it. It's more
Yeah,
just like a feeling you have. And
oh, that's so true.
yeah, it's just like, I don't know what love is. Do you know what love is? But it's just hard to put into words.
Yeah, I feel like no one will ever know what it is, but I
Mm,
feel like there's like a deeper understanding of like your soul kind of knows what it is, but like in
yeah.
mind, there's no way to like articulate it, which is
Mm,
a cool thing. It's kind of like you do know what it is, but your, I guess, human self is like trying to like, put a condition on it.
mm,
So it's like, when you do think about it, it's like, oh, like I can only describe it as a feeling because it's like kind of that intuition sort of stems from it, I feel, maybe from
yeah.
more than my mind. Like,
Mm,
think about love or like you feel like you yeah, you feel like love and all that, I feel as though it isn't necessarily from your mind in a sense, like
mm,
it's from somewhere else, or like the feeling of it or whatever it's coming from is not necessarily like a human like
yeah.
force sort of thing.
Yeah, that's so true. Like we can like explain what sad is and what happiness is and things like that, but when it comes to love, it just comes down to like the actual emotion and the feeling inside of you. It's you can't describe it. And I guess that's like when people say I love you and they try to tell you how much they love you, they're just like words can't even explain how much I love you because you can't
Yeah,
really explain it.
yeah, no, I feel like that's like a massive thing. And another thing like that you were saying before, how it's like something that's like without condition, and it's kind of like how you're saying, like I want like if, as long as you cook for me, that sort of stuff.
Mm,
Having something associated with it. It's kind of like those things where it's like, like what's your ideal like partner, blah blah blah. Like, what do they have to look like? Some people like have sort of like things that they want from someone. It's like if it is that sort of thing of love, then none of that. I feel
yeah.
so. I feel like for me, I feel like if it's love, then it's something that it's almost you don't really have to question to some extent.
Yeah. That's so true.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like it's different for everyone. But
Mm,
yeah, I don't know. I feel like that is, and it may change as well. Like, I feel depending on like past experience and things.
mm.
But yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's something that is always changing, but the feeling of it kind of like stays the same.
Yeah, and I think it's about like you just said, like it's forever changing and things like that. And I think it's because like as like a spiritual being having a human experience, like we're continuously expanding and growing, and that's why like our, I guess, version of love changes all the time. Like I guess your love to your siblings is different to your love to your partner or like your pet, but at the end it's all sort of the same love.
Mm.
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I feel that like it's kind of the same thing, but in terms of what it's directed to or like where
Mm,
it's being placed, it does change its form a bit. But yeah, the base of it, I feel like is kind of the same, which is nice.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's kind of like all I have for love. I'm not too sure. I feel like it's something that you experience.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, so I feel like the next question that we have is in a difficult situation, how do you stay sane and raise your vibration?
Oh, that's actually a hard one. Um, well, just for me, it's probably just being calm, like especially working with sometimes difficult customers at work. Like that's all you can do is be calm and wait for them to, I guess, calm down, because when you're calm that brings them down as well. But also just sitting within myself in that situation and thinking, is what I'm going to say next going to like impact whatever's going to happen, or is it even okay? Or and usually just sit with myself and be still and let that emotion, whether it be like anger, frustration, annoyance, whatever, just rise up and release. And sometimes it really is difficult to sit with yourself in stillness and really, I guess, immerse yourself in these emotions, because it hurts. Like, it literally sometimes strains my heart and it's a little bit painful, but I guess that's how I get through it. And then to raise my vibration is just surround myself with people I love, listen to music, um, read books. I definitely love spending time by myself, like going to the beach, going into nature, and just surrendering. I feel like that really helps me recharge and raise my vibration. I guess just eating healthy and drinking lots of water as well, because like that helps to cleanse your body. And the most important thing for me is to sit in stillness, whether it be in a difficult situation, and to raise your vibration, because going inwards, well, for me at this time in my life, is really important because of all the crazy stuff that like happens around you in life, like with work, school, traffic, everything. So for me, it's just being in stillness and finding that space, that sacred space where I can just surrender.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
I feel like I'm trying to think about it. Like, in order to stay sane, like I feel like it's probably for me, like it's definitely a process, but I feel as though to
Mm,
kind of like separate things, like in terms of not fully like associating yourself with a situation, or like putting yourself in the same sort of category, I guess, in your head, of being like, this is a shit situation, like I'm
mm-hmm.
feeling shit. It's kind of like that is just like all the fuzzy stuff over what is really happening. So I feel as though for me, when I can kind of separate it myself from whatever's going on, and then like you said, going inward and just focusing on yourself. But sometimes it's hard because
Mm,
whatever's going on, there isn't that time, I guess, to like take a few deep breaths or just like literally move away. Like sometimes it is that thing where you're like maybe even like in a convo with someone, or like it's something that you can't move from. But in terms of to be able to stay sane, I feel as though it definitely comes from yourself. um,
yeah.
and I feel like being quiet and maybe like listening to others instead of
Mm,
to like force something upon it, because whatever you're going to project out is going to obviously have an effect in some way. So
yeah.
in a crazy situation, that's kind of like, well, if whatever you put out, you don't know if that's going to make it more crazy or whatever, then it's kind of just like, we'll just listen to what's going on and see if you can kind of flow with what's happening. um,
Yeah.
in terms of trying to change it, because if it's with someone else or in another situation where it's out of your control, you obviously can't control that. So you don't necessarily want to put something into it. So if you just kind of listen, then you may be able to work something out, or actually like understand where that person is coming from. But
Mm,
from that sort of stance, that's where you kind of raise a vibration, I guess, because you're like allowing space for like energy to flow. And so if it's to raise a vibration, then I feel like it does come from having a space there in which people can feel free to, like speak their truth, speak what
mm,
is like on their heart or on their mind, whether we deem that bad or good, like whether that's, like attacking something or whatever. Like they're saying it, and it's like you can't stop that. You can only
yeah.
control like literally yourself. And it's hard because sometimes it may affect you in terms of like if it's attacking towards you. But I feel like most things it's like a reflection of that own person. So that's like another,
Mm,
it's like sometimes you have to realize that it doesn't have anything to do with you, even though you may be like involved per se in the thing. Like that's just,
yeah.
you can't change. Which is hard because it's like, again, it's like you may have a really close attachment to someone or a situation that's like you feel like you just want to like let them know, like how to improve it, how to change, blah blah blah. But
Mm,
to some extent they have to come to that in their own way, and it's kind of just like practicing, I guess, like non-attachment to the situation. But yeah, I don't know if that really answered to raise your vibration, but I feel like in a sense they're kind of like byproducts of just kind of like being, because to raise a vibration for me, that's kind of um I don't know, I feel like raising a vibration, how would I explain it? I don't know. I feel like it does come from a sense of ease. And so if there's like
Mm.
the least like resistance or least tension you put into the situation, I feel like that will allow for just kind of a nice resonance for you. And then obviously that is an output into the situation. But I don't know if that made sense, but that's just kind
Yeah.
of,
I hear what you're saying. Like that totally made sense. Like I going back to what you just said is like, really listening to that person if the difficult situation is with a person and, letting them speak their truth. They reminded me of a quote that I recently heard by Maya Angelou, and it's I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. And I guess like holding that space for that person to like speak their truth and that sort of thing definitely helps, create that space. And um, you're just sitting there being like still, and that allows that person, I guess, to um express themselves and not hold into that feeling. And even though, like you said, in a difficult time, it may affect you and it may make you feel upset, just to remember that it's not a reflection of you, that it is that person that's like sort of not really an issue, like their issue, but it's got to do with them and nothing to do with you. And I think, like you just said, like definitely separating the two, remembering that, helps to keep yourself sane and still and be like, okay, it's kind of like, I guess you can say, I'm not really like I'm better than that, but I don't really know how to explain it. But
no,
do you know what I mean?
yeah, it's because it's like it is like, I guess, in terms for to understand it, it is kind of like, I guess better is a good word of it, but it doesn't have the right meaning behind it because
Yeah.
nothing's better. But I feel as though it's just kind of like, oh, how would you describe it? It's just kind of like a separation between the two, because if you can separate yourself, then you're not associated with whatever resonance or vibration they're on.
Mm.
So that will allow you to cultivate your own vibration that isn't better, it's just different. Like I feel as though nothing's better in a way.
Mm.
I feel like I catch myself saying that as well. But it is just kind of like different to what that person is. And in that sense, it's just, yeah, a different vibration and a different level of understanding of like yourself and the situation.
Mm.
But yeah.
And I also like just wanted to add to that as well. Like I've been reading this book called The Vortex by Esther and Jerry Hicks, and they talk about like you've got two like important aspects of yourself, like your physical and your non-physical self, meaning like your inner being, your soul, and that sort of thing, and then your physical being, your human form, your mind. And they talk about like you can't like not really can't, but you won't be able to help or love or all that sort of stuff to your fullest extent until you have all of that stuff worked out with you. So basically, you can't help anyone else until you help yourself. Like,
Mm.
I don't really know how to explain it, but because both your soul and like your physical form are both one, you can't really help, not really help, but just be in your full awareness with another person if you can't do that with you. And I feel like that's one of those things in a difficult situation to have is, making sure you're in alignment and stepping back in your space so you can hold space for that person and the situation, really.
Yeah, I feel like I definitely feel that, because it's kind of like if you don't have that within yourself, then it's like, how is that going to come from a place of truth and actually gonna give that energy off that,
Mm,
like, fulfill the other person, if that's not true within yourself? Like, if you haven't got that, it doesn't even necessarily need to be like 100%, like, I've got this. Like, I don't think you'll ever have anything,
yeah.
even if you've just kind of journeyed into that space. Then if you know that yourself, then you're going to best be able to kind of like resurface that within someone else.
Definitely.
So yeah, no, that's very true. And I guess that also comes with that thing of like, whenever someone says anything, or like, I don't know, is like in a situation, like it is all like a reflection of like your inner state, in terms of whether you have sort
Mm,
of taken time to discover that, you know, certain things are different for you, or I don't know, just certain things that you haven't really dove into before. I feel like that determines kind of the output for a situation.
kind of like a lesson, I guess, for
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah. A lesson in everything.
Yeah, awesome. So the next question we got is, what is the meaning behind your name and zodiac sign, and if it all aligns with your personality? So I'm going to read Maddie's, and Maddie's going to read mine or tell me mine. So Maddie's full name is actually Madeline, and I found two meanings, and I found one quite funny actually. So the first one, a lot of, I think your name comes from France, French origin, but
Yeah.
Madeline um, and Madeleine and Madeline are forms of Magdalene, which is well known as a name because of Mary Magdalene. Magdalene means from Magdala. Mary Magdalene's name is thought to be derived from Magdala, a village on the Sea of Galilee. Magdala means tower or elevated, great, or magnificent. So your name, me, Madeline, came from Magdala.
There you go.
Yeah.
No,
And
that's cool. I feel like I've because obviously like I've searched it up before. Like I totally forgot about that. I remember when I was younger, I was like, what the heck does that mean? Like, oh my
yeah.
god, such a random thing. But
And
yeah,
I
no, I guess it makes sense.
and I got the other meaning. It's pretty funny. It's
Yeah.
a small rich sponge cake baked in a fluted tin or mold and decorated with coconut and jam.
Oh, I like that one. That's literally me.
Oh, I was like, oh my God, I don't even know if this is the right name meaning, but this one's pretty funny.
That's so good. No, I feel like that. I feel like yeah, I feel like they're like some French thing because I have had them before, like in terms of like the little cake thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's cute. No, that's good. All right. So Tiani, your one obviously it's like it says gender girl, which is handy because that's you,
Yeah.
and then it says the meaning is generous one, which is nice. And then it's basically the origin is Australian. It says that it's an Australian name, and the origin, like I said, was generous one, and its numerological number is 8. So,
Oh,
which I'm not too sure what that means. We can probably look that up after. I don't really know much about numerology,
neither do
but
I.
this is kind of like an infinity symbol, which is kind of cool. Oh yeah, lol. It just says here it's a symbol of infinity. Wow. So it says basically the following qualities. So with 8 number, people must learn how money can be used for the greater good. They're a symbol of infinity, which leads to the next life, which is cool because you were saying like you sometimes have like dreams and stuff with like your ancestors and like guides, which is kind of cool. Um, and then it said this number is worldly and hardworking, but often lacks patience and pliability. And it said then they can be ruthless in pursuit of their goals. And on the other hand, they're very family oriented, protecting their loved ones.
Oh, that's so nice. That does sound like me.
It does. I was reading, I'm like, yeah, that's you, which is cool. No, it's nice.
Oh, okay. So your number is 9, and 9 represents achievement and completion. It is product of 3 by 3. Make 9 a powerful number. Numerology of 9s are achievers, possessing bright ideas, high ideas, and innate abilities. They take the big picture into consideration with their broad visions, global and endeavors. 9 are always looking for ways to improve on any situation or project. Wow, that does sound like you.
That's fun. My birthday's the 9th of December, which is kind of crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's kind of random.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then I found my what's it called? I think it's like your life path number's 3, and it was like 3 by 3 is 9. I was like, oh, that's cool.
Oh, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah,
Ooh,
random.
girl, you are magic.
I've got it going. That's funky.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
So
Well,
now, yeah, we can do our horoscopes.
okay, I'll read yours first. So I'm actually reading this out of my astrology book by Yasmin Boland. It's a part of the Hay House Basics. And so Sagittarius, element is fire, quality is mutable, ruling planet is Jupiter, keywords I see, and opposite sign is Gemini. Harmonizes easily with Aries, Gemini, Leo, Libra, Sagittarius, and Aquarius. Okay, Sagittarius is pretty much the luckiest sign of the zodiac, and the good news is we all have Sagittarius somewhere in our charts. That's where things flow. We also look to the planet Jupiter for this, but Sagittarius carries a lot of Jupiterian energy and vice versa, but we shouldn't confuse Sagittarian cheerfulness with superficiality. In fact, Sagittarius has a huge capacity for big thoughts and seeing the big picture of life. It can be preachy sometimes, but that's because Sagittarius energy wants to explore and adventure and broaden life's perspectives, especially by studying and teaching. With Sagittarius, the danger is complexity. Complexity? No, I don't know how to say that word. Whatever that looks like for you. Carelessness is also a potential issue wherever you have Sagittarius in your chart. Sagittarius has a devil may care thing going on and it's not afraid to show it. Of course, many great achievements come via taking great risks, and Sagittarius is not risk averse. So go easy and don't bet the farm if you have lots of Sagittarius planets. Well, unless you don't mind the possibility of losing the farm.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fun. That's really cool. I feel like, yeah, I feel like I resonate with that.
Yeah, I think you do. And that definitely like matches your name. Like how crazy is that?
That's random as.
Yeah. Ooh,
That's
ooh.
cool. All right, I'll read your one. So I got this off astrostyle.com. Basically, the symbol is the mountain goat, and the element is Earth, which is cool. Ruling planet is Saturn, and on a good day, it says that you're loyal, family-minded, hardworking, devoted, honest, fearless, which is nice. And then it says on a bad day, you're pessimistic, unforgiving, cold, materialistic, snobbish, and we won't focus on that. And then your favorite things. It says goals, exclusive things, and you like leg sports like soccer and track. Random. And then here, it says a secret wish is to have everything you need to be taken care of, which is kind of nice. Um, and it says basically about the mountain goat is that you're ruled by the driven and persistent mountain goat. So Capricorn energy is willful and determined, focused on goals. So Capricorn helps us set our minds on an outcome and reach the finish line. And it may be an epic hero's journey to get there, which is why we need Capricorn's steely grit and unparalleled resilience. And it's about taking the road less traveled and instead, oh no, it's not about taking the road less traveled. Oh, whoops. Taking the road less traveled isn't how this traditional sign rolls. Instead, Capricorn maps out the straightest and simplest route to the top, then sticks to the plan, which is kind of nice. And then it talks about your element of Earth. So it's one of the three zodiac signs which are ruled under the Earth element. The other ones are Taurus and Virgo, and it is the third and final Earth sign. It combines the Taurus's rock-solid foundation and Virgo's skillful plans into a high-rise penthouse fit for world domination. So Capricorn people are the master strategists, and who will always keep one eye on a 5 or 10-year plan, which is cool. And then I feel like what else is here? What you're like. Apparently, you're busy, and you can find Capricorns enjoying quality time with family, working obsessively on large scale projects, or running for a prestigious role. Capricorn people like to mix business with pleasure, and they often develop tight bonds with people they meet on a job or through a team project. And they are popular people of the zodiac. There you go.
Thank you. That's so true. And when you were like reading out the bad things, I was like, oh my God, like sometimes when I'm just like not in it for people, that is so me. I'm like cold. I'm like cynical. I'm like, don't even talk to me. It's not my day.
Not gonna happen.
Yeah. Oh, that's so funny. I'm
Yeah.
actually going to read, because you're a fire sign, I'm going to read that part as well. So with Aries and Leo as well, these signs are the biggest live wires, the people who light up parties and turn heads. That's not to say we all can't shine like a fire sign, but these guys more or less lay claim to that sort of behavior. Even if your sun sign is not a fire sign, you have other planets in your chart, and at least some of these will have the highly creative fire energy. Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius are different signs in one way, but all are fervent and hot blooded. Wherever you have fire in your birth chart, for example, a planet in a fire sign or a fire sign sitting on one of your houses, you're likely to be anything but passive. Passion burns brightly in the fire signs, and they burn hard and fast too. Fire signs, temperaments flare up, but they can calm down just as quickly. A fire sign in your chart is also where you'll go on some kind of quest or get fired up with burning ambition. the fiery part of you is also the part that knows it can do anything, the part that's restless, always seeking and wanting to get things done quickly. Keywords: fire, heat, burns you up.
Burns you up.
Yeah. I think
Cool.
that's so true with you because you're
Yeah,
so
no, I feel that.
creative and you're like, let's do this. Okay, let's do that. All right, how are we going to do this? Like, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like if I'm like set on something, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Like I go like full strength. Like, come on. No, all right. Well, that's awesome. I feel like that was kind of fun to do.
Yeah, exciting. Oh.
I'll read it. So, how do you know the difference between ego and intuition?
That's a really hard one, actually. I'm going to be honest. That's actually really hard because sometimes, like, I guess for me, the best way I do it is my ego is telling me what I am not. So sometimes ego is a good thing because you can
Mm,
recognize things that you can work on, like self-love and, loving other things and all that sort of stuff as well. But for me, it's definitely my ego telling me what I truly am not. So, for example, my ego could be like, "You're not worthy. You're not good enough. You're not pretty enough. You're not skinny enough," etc., etc. But deep down, I already know that I am worthy. I am good enough, and I am beautiful, and my weight doesn't matter, and that sort of thing. And I feel like with intuition, it just comes from like a place of love and like a deep sense of knowing that this is what it is or this what is what may happen. It's just I don't really know really, but yeah, definitely for me ego is not what I am, but intuition is kind of like I am, and it's more
mm,
sort of like a firm belief of myself, and that's the best way I can kind of like separate the two is by knowing what I am and what I'm not. And it can be really hard sometimes because sometimes your ego just takes over and you feel like you're stuck and you can't move, and it's like, and you'll get upset, maybe depressed, and it'll cause anxiety, and sometimes the ego's a little bit crazy. But I think for intuition, it's just definitely finding that place of love within yourself. Your intuition's always going to be there. Everyone's born with it. It's, I guess, whether we believe in that or recognize that and that sort of thing, but it's always there, always inside of you. Something that loves you so so much, and every intention from your intuition, every move you make, every action you take is from a place of love and authenticity. And well, that's how I feel between the both of them, and knowing
mm.
the difference, or how do I know the difference anyways? What about you?
No, I resonate with that so much. I feel like for a while, like, well, I don't know, for like a solid like 4 months, I was like, ego's like shit. I was like, nah, I don't have anything to do with it.
Yeah.
I was such negative connotation. I was like ego, what even is that? I was like, how have I been living my life with like ego? I was like, I'm just gonna go like full like strength intuition. And then I was like, look, the reason I'm wanting to even go full strength intuition, it has in part to do with like the ego as well.
Mm.
So I was like, look, mate, you're not gonna have one or the other. So I was, for me, coming to terms with the fact that both exist and that is okay, because
Yeah.
I feel like a lot in terms of like, even if it's like a spiritual community or like in terms of people that kind of dive into that sort of stuff, sometimes it can be the thing that's like ego is like the bad and like intuition is the good. And for me, when I didn't really understand it as much, that like really imprinted on me. And I was like, look, if ego's bad, I don't want bad. So I was like, I'm not going to do it. But I feel like ego is kind of like a blessing in disguise. Like it's kind of just like got its mask on, because it definitely, like you said, like brings up areas in which you can like swap into the intuition and be like, look, I'm not that. And I feel like it's areas in which like you can have self growth, and in terms of like when there's retrograde in planets and like all these things, like
Yeah.
the murky stuff that hasn't really been dealt with. And it's not a bad thing that it hasn't been dealt with. Like it'll come up in its own time. But when it does, I feel like ego is a good thing because it kind of does have that rational thought to it. And it is that thing of just looking at it and what's the first thing that comes up. Usually it's like an egoic thought or something that kind of happens. And it is a process of kind of less attachment to the ego, because I feel like we're conditioned to that. but it's good to have it to some degree because then you can realize the intuition and actually like distinguish between both, which is kind of like a massive thing because if you couldn't distinguish between both, then I guess you really wouldn't have like an intuition because it does have the opposite kind of qualities of like an
Mm.
ego. So I feel like they're kind of like best buds and they kind of work well together if you don't like overthink it like I did and just become
Yeah,
obsessed with one or the other.
I feel that because when I was like when I was like opening up to all of these things and learning about ego and all that sort of stuff, I felt the same. I was like, no, ego's bad. I don't want it. I'm not going to listen to it. But then for like a part of my life, I literally fell under my ego and yeah, it was really like hard and upsetting and things like that. But then I just somehow, I don't even know how, I was just like, not enough is enough. I'm getting like bored of my ego telling me all these things that aren't even true. Like, and I know that aren't true. And like basically, like the ego just is afraid. And whereas intuition already knows, like ego doesn't know what's happening. And like once it loses control, it's like, oh my God, like crazy. But intuition's like, it's okay. Like, you'll be okay. And my dad's partner Heidi, like we were talking about all of this stuff, and I even like said to her, and I was like, ego's bad, like because that's what, like you said, I was like conditioned to know and things like that, and that's what I read on the internet. She's like, no, it's not, and I'm like, yes, it is. Like it's actually really bad. And she's like, no, like your ego helps you recognize, um, like within you what you may need to work on, like self love and you know judgment of other people and things like that. I'm like, and then I think I like left her house or left my dad's house, and I was like, you know what? That is so true because like your ego helps you grow and just learn, and it like helps you to know like listen to it, but not listen to it because sometimes the things that your ego says aren't true.
Yeah, I feel like, and it's kind of like a crazy whirlwind as well. Like when you first open up to it, like
Mm,
you said, like it's almost like this switch in you that's kind of like, well, there's no way I'm going to go back to that. But I feel like it's a process of looking at it with like your love goggles on and being like, this is here, like everything's here for a reason. And in terms
mm,
of like a lesson in everything, I feel like it's a massive lesson teacher and a lesson in terms of not like absorbing yourself in it, but looking at it from a distance into like when it says something such as that may have like something that you don't fully agree with, it is a lesson in that being like, look, that's something that I'm going to let go of and I'm not going to focus on it. And if it comes up again, it's like allowing it to be and then releasing it, because without that ego stance and I guess that mental awareness of recognizing those things, they're never going to come up to heal. um,
mm.
which I feel like it's like a major massive thing to like help sort of like collect certain things at a particular time and then bring them up to you, and that's where you can go on that path of like, am I going to focus like my mental energy on that, or
Mm.
that intuition of kind of non-attachment and just kind of feeling into it and then releasing it. Because like if it's an ego thing, for me I feel as though it's kind of if I hold on to it and kind of dwell on it. And
Yeah.
I mean that happens like you, I don't know, I'm never fully not attached to something. That's something I feel like I'm working on because it's hard. Like it's always, something is, like part of you, or you feel completely involved in it when you're not necessarily.
Mm.
Like it's kind of, yeah, leaning into more of the feeling and kind of less of the thinking of it.
Mm.
But yeah.
And I think it's like the ego has a lot to do with like thoughts and like because you constantly are thinking, whether you're sometimes when you're meditating you're like thinking, you're like, oh my God, please just be quiet, like it's something you constantly listen to, and but it's up to you as like I guess when you're in your soul space to sit back and be like, okay, this is just my ego just talking, like what can I do about this? Like, is it even worth it? Like, am I just freaking myself out for no reason? And if that's the case, then you'd be like, okay, I don't even need to worry about this and dwell on it and make it an even bigger problem than it may not even like exist to start with.
It's like creator in your head. It's like stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I feel like it's a good one.
But I definitely think with your ego, you should like make it your friend and love it as much as you love every other part of you. Because like when you work your intuition and your ego together, like you can create magic. Like your ego can help you, I guess, manifest things into your life if you use your mind as like a tool rather than something that's just like a part of you and that you feel like has control over you. Like you can control your thoughts and your ego.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Yeah, I feel like they're a good pair together,
Mm.
which is nice.
Ooh, so the next question is how to love people when you really don't feel like it.
Oh, that's a crazy one.
Yeah.
That's like first when I read that, I'm like, oh, like I don't really know how to answer it. But like when you don't feel like it, I feel like that's a massive thing. Like for me, like
Mm.
if I don't feel like loving someone or like putting my energy, it kind of depends on what situation it is. Because if it's something where it's like the energy you put out is going to be reciprocated, then I'm like, that's something I can work on within myself. But if it's something where it's like, if you don't feel like it and you genuinely do not feel like you're getting it back, like that is when you need to say your piece and leave because it's like the energy you have within yourself is so, so precious. And it's like if you give it to people who aren't necessarily ready yet, and it doesn't mean it's like you're going to say goodbye and never see them again
Mm.
because they're on their own journey and you may bump past again. But for that current space and time, it's kind of like you need to sit with yourself and be like, look, what is best for me? Because you can't keep putting energy out that's not going to be given back in some sort of form. It doesn't have to be exactly the same, but if there's no effort or will from them in the same space, it's just kind of going to drain you. And
Mm.
that's something I feel as though has been like a massive lesson for me because I am quite like open with people when I first meet them and I'm quite friendly and like I want to like be friends with people, but it has been a thing of realizing, look, what's the intent? And sometimes you don't know the intent, but you can feel it. And
Mm.
for me, it's kind of like if it feels like a bit fuzzy and yucky, like after a few times you've been with them or like been in a situation with like certain groups of people, like I feel like that's a sign
Mm.
from intuition again, just being like, look, we need to leave this space. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like that's how I would say it. But if it's in some situation where it's like you are with, say, like your best friend forever or like your really good friend and you just don't feel like loving him, I feel like it would just be kind of like a communication thing between being like, look, like I'm really not feeling like it today, like catching up. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a bad thing. It's like, look, I'm just feeling like quite depleted, like I need to spend some time
Mm.
self in order to cultivate that love within myself because it's all kind of like a reflection. So if you see like you're angry towards someone or something, it's kind of like you're angry at that space within yourself or like there's not much
Mm.
for yourself in that sort of space. So I feel like it's kind of taking a step back and looking at it within yourself is kind of like the first place I would start with if it's a situation that's like feeding you and not taking stuff away from you.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Wow. I don't even know what to say because that question is so hard to answer. Like, and like you said, like it depends on what situation you're in. Like, it could be with family, it could be friends. It doesn't necessarily mean like I just met you, okay, see you bye. It just kind of means like, I feel like what you just said, like how you're feeling at the time. Like, sometimes you do need to leave a situation or, cut cords with somebody, but you'll definitely know that like within yourself and you'll know if it's the right thing to do. Again, depends on what the situation is. Like, I guess if you like you just said, like if you genuinely don't feel like, well, even if it's like with a friend, it doesn't mean you don't love them. It just means that, let's just take some time out for me and then, we can hang out later on, sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me, a big part of that would just be accepting, um, especially like, if like something's not bad, but like, something's caused issues and it's like, well, I don't even want to forgive this person. I don't even want to love them. Like, you're finding it really hard to find those feelings for them, even though they might be a friend or a family member. It's just like, well, if I can accept them for who they are, I know I can't change them. But if I can just, accept it for me, myself, then maybe later on I can, begin to love them or forgive them. But I think if you can just accept what the situation is or, who that person is, you'll feel better off rather than feeling guilty for not loving them as such or pushing yourself too hard, especially if somebody's not, giving something back. And I know like some people would disagree, like you don't have to have somebody give something back to you in order for you to love them, but it's kind of like you can't give somebody 100% if they're only giving you 50. Like it has to be 100.
Yeah, no, I feel like, and it's almost like it, like that thing of where, like some people like you have to, like when it's kind of that thing of where no one's gonna give something back, like you have to give something. It's not necessarily like a materialistic thing, or it's kind of more like an energy, like a resonance. It's like if you're not gonna get that quality that is best for your soul and that you deserve, then in some form or another, it's not going to serve you. And there's sometimes where it's like, look, I feel as though they're not, like reciprocating in the same stance, but it is that thing of like, look, I'm going to stay and going to learn things from it. Like if there is something, I just feel like it's like a feeling. Like if you feel as though it's going to benefit you, not necessarily in like an energetic way, but if you're going to learn like new ways of like life or like new opinions on something, like you can sit around for a bit and kind of like just play along with like what feels good and what doesn't, and just kind of journey with that. But it does come to some stage where you kind of need to look at it, and for you, because it's different for everyone, but it's like if you're at that stage where it's like, look, it's just not fueling me anymore, then that's when you just slowly like wean it off and just, I don't know, it's something that you just slowly let go of. And it's like, look, you may still catch up for coffee like one time a week instead of seeing them like every couple of days, or like, once a month instead of every, like it's not necessarily completely cutting cords, but it's just allowing that space to be filled with something that'll benefit you instead of something that like kind of sucks it out of you. That was all the questions that we had for this week. So I feel like that was a nice chat. So we really hope you guys enjoyed listening. I feel like I love the super chill ones. It's nothing too structured. I feel like it just kind of comes out. Which is nice bit of free expression.
Yeah, and I love it. I just love like hearing like your perspective on things, Maddie, and like especially just like sharing like our own like views on different things, because sometimes like we just need to have like a chill out session, and instead of like interviewing other people, like we haven't interviewed many people, but it's just good to just talk to each other. And I guess in a way it like grows our friendship and really grows our relationship as well, and we expand with each other because we're like on like different parts at the moment. And so it's so cool to hear what you're learning and then what I'm learning, and then just being like, oh my God. Like I feel like we're growing together, but like we're on completely separate paths, which is crazy.
Yeah, no, it's such a cool space. Like even though it is like a podcast for you guys to hear, it is almost like a journey for like us individually and us together. Like it's such a nice space to cultivate like knowledge that we all have inside, and hopefully it sparked some thoughts for you guys in terms of what we chatted about today.
Yeah.
I don't know, in terms of like if you guys wanted to get in touch, we would love to connect with you. So let us know, hit us up on our Instagram. We've got the details below, our email. Like I feel like it's such a communal space. So let us know.
And we'll be uploading all of our episodes onto SoundCloud now. So for those of you who have SoundCloud, check it out, please. It's just Suddha Sanctuary. Pretty easy to find, but we'll put that link down below as well. We created it because of those people who love listening to like podcasts and music on their way to work or running or exercising or whatever the case may be. It's just, I guess, a lot more easier and convenient for those of you who do. So check it out. Let us know what you think.
Yeah, awesome. We'll probably be back with another interview next week, which is really exciting. So keep your eyes peeled, and we'll speak very soon.